Well, Jeremy, I was looking forward to seeing you again because, of course, after the phenomenal success of The Killing Fields, which a few of us predicted, but I don't suppose any of us could have imagined that it would have been, you know, such a fantastic success. But then having this chance to talk with you, excuse me, let me start over.
Okay.
All right. It wasn't The Killing Fields, I'm thinking of Roland. Jeremy, it's good to see you again because the last time you and I talked was French Lieutenant's Woman. And so here we are, some few years later, talking about another really magnificent film with a superb performance by you. The Mission is really an incredibly wonderfully acted and wonderfully looking picture. I'm wondering, as you were thinking about this and getting ready for it and all, your role, seemingly, perhaps on paper, would seem like a blander role than De Niro's role, which many people would assume was, or might look on paper like a much meatier role. Was that a great concern of yours, that your role wouldn't give you the opportunity to do your stuff?
Yes, at the back of my mind, I did worry that, as you say, Bobbie's character starts off as a slave trader, becomes a priest, and then reverts. And I start off as I am, as I play, as a priest, and continue through as a priest, and don't really surprised by what I do. That was a consideration and a worry. I'm glad to say that because Roland Joffé is a great filmmaker, he hasn't made that a problem. It seemed to me very important, just as the decision at the end of the film should be two men going two different ways, and for the audience to have to make up their own mind which they consider to be the best way or the way they would have gone. They had to care equally about each of the men separately. And I think Roland's managed to do that. My hat goes off to him.
I wonder also because, by his own admission, De Niro is a difficult person. You know, I think he sort of prides himself on that. Did you know him before this?
No, I met him in New York before we went out there. We did a little bit of work together, just got to know each other a bit. But no, I didn't. I mean, I knew his work, of course.
Were you concerned about whether there would be friction or problems or, you know, maybe not a good chemistry, because he's from an entirely different approach to acting?
Yeah. I didn't think it would be as difficult as it turned out to be. He is, as you say, very different to me. I am an English actor, which many American actors worry about, because we come from a longer tradition, a tradition of theatre. We tend to act, which is not what the camera likes. The camera likes moments of truth. So he was suspicious of me. I found him very closed, and I suppose our relationship through the shooting, through the 5-month shoot, mirrored pretty closely our relationship on the screen. About halfway through, we discovered that we may come from different places, we may have different methods of working, but what we were both trying to do was the same thing. And once we realized that, we relaxed, we dropped our guards, and we got on with it, and we finished the picture great friends. I'm glad to say I'm a huge admirer of his.
I thought it was kind of strange, Jeremy, when I read that Daniel Berrigan was the tech advisor of priestly matters, I guess. And knowing a little bit about Jesuits, who are the intelligentsia of the Catholic Church, and knowing your character, the kind of priest he was supposed to be and all, I thought that it was kind of strange that this activist, this rather rebel sort of person in the church, would be the tech advisor for the kind of priest you play. Now, in fact, was he any help to you, or how was
He was
that?
enormous help. I mean, if my character works on the screen, it's because of Dan Berrigan. We did have another technical advisor, another Jesuit from London, the priest at Wandsworth Jail in London. Very different sort of Jesuit. So what it taught me was, in fact, that the order pulls in very disparate sorts of people. The fact that you call down a rebel within the Jesuit order, I think tells us more about the Jesuit order than about Dan. The men that Loyola was trying to attract early on was just the sort of man that Dan Berrigan is. I couldn't have a better role model. We worked very closely together. We went into retreat together. He taught me that, well, I saw in him that God and life were like that, not like that. And that was a good message. You think Dan Berrigan's radical? I think he's very clear-sighted. I think he sees the situation and he says things which are difficult to hear. But then I imagine so did Jesus. He weren't too popular with them Romans.
Jeremy, what do you have another film now, or what will be your
No, I'm
next?
working in the theatre. I've been working in the theatre for the last 6 months at Stratford-on-Avon in Warwickshire, England, doing Shakespeare. I'm playing Richard II. I'm playing Leontes in The Winter's Tale, and a rediscovered play by a 17th century woman called Aphra Behn, where a wonderful bawdy comedy. So I'm up there until the middle of January, and then I hope maybe to do a movie in the middle of the beginning half of next year, and then to return to London to the Royal Shakespeare Company in the second half of next year to do the plays I'm doing in Stratford at the moment.
Well, meanwhile, I hope that the mission has all the success for you that it deserves and that your performance deserves. And thanks so much for talking with us here today in New York City.
It's been a pleasure. Give my love to Dallas.
Indeed.
Okay, stand by, please. 3, 2, 1, rolling, Bobbie.
Jeremy, at first glance, your role might seem to be a blander role than De Niro's. And I wonder, in the very beginning, was that of concern to you? You and De Niro come from different schools of acting. How much of a problem was that for you? Some people may think it's rather strange that Daniel Berrigan, who is considered by some to be a rebel and certainly not just your ordinary priestly person, they might think it's unusual that he would be the technical advisor to you. And what's next for you now? And now I'll just give you reactions. Okay, thank you.